Hi, and welcome to Syrup Shots Gaming. I'm Tyler, and with me is Dave.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Long time no see.
Long time no see. And Chris.
I'm alive. I'm not just raising a kid.
You're not just raising it. I mean, you are also
You are
raising a
raising
kid.
it, yeah, but
I see that they make a Fisher Price controller now that like kids can play with.
Yeah. Actually, I think fellow Cressida gave Hugo a little controller that
baby's
he could
first
play with.
controller.
Yeah.
Well, someone modded it and is playing Elden Ring with it.
Oh Jesus, of course they are.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's
Well,
funny.
everyone, welcome to Syrup Shots Gaming Podcast. Each week we try to each week get together, talk about what we've been playing, news in the video game world, etc. Life has been kind of happening. We've all had kind of some personal stuff that's kind of gotten in the way, but we're trying a new schedule of when we're recording, so hopefully we get back on track. Get a little more regular.
With our podcast fiber.
Yes. So let's start off with the basics. What have you guys been playing?
Oh, wow! That is a big question because since the last time we talked, I have played quite a bit, and
It has been a while.
Yeah.
I think the last time our last video came out 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Think about
So I've been playing quite a bit. So listeners, we have mentioned on the podcast once or twice before how we, at the beginning of the year, we will make a recommendation for a friend on the first game that they have to play for the year, and then the friend has to play it. Well, Tyler got me this year, and so the
Without
game I
cheating.
had to, without cheating, he claims. But the game I had to play was Metal Gear Solid 5: Phantom Pain, which I did. Now, starting before that, though, I had been playing the Xbox exclusive Recore before that. And that is a game that, unfortunately, I'm going to do something I usually don't like to do, but I am just not going to finish that game, at least for now.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That game was truly just. It wasn't even bad. It just was mediocre. That was even worse. I feel sometimes because I've played some truly laughably bad games and have found enjoyment out of them. But with it was just I felt a lot of things were, it had like a lot of good ideas that just didn't go anywhere. And I know some people in the game were like, "Oh, but the combat's wonderful." No, the combat sucks. It's terrible. And you don't ever get like any different weapons. You get these upgrades for your gun. All right? You know what the upgrades are, Tyler? Guess what the upgrades are?
It does more damage?
No, not necessarily. Here's the thing. At the beginning of the game, you get a gun and it fires white laser bolts. Later, you get literally the red upgrade and you fire red laser bolts. Now,
so what you're telling me is you got the Mass Effect 3 ending upgrade to your gun.
Yes. Red, blue, yellow. And you got to match the colors to the enemy's like power core to do more damage. All right. But it doesn't fire any different. Nothing's like rockets or anything. And so some people are like, "Oh, well, that's the Mega Man inspiration." And I'm like, no. Even in Mega Man, once you beat a robot master, you got a sweet new weapon that shot and did everything differently. So, and they're like, also, like, it's Metroidvania inspired. I'm like, no, it's not. It is a Ocarina of Time style Zelda inspired, but here's all the environments. So it takes place in a barren desert world. So the first area is a barren desert. The next area is a barren desert. The third area is a barren desert, only this time it's quicksand. Ooh.
Okay.
And all
So-
of them have like,
so
and the
quick-
story also at the same time is like Oh, I'm sorry.
Question. I don't know anything about this game. Like, is this like a Xbox One game? Is this a
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an Xbox One
Everything you're
exclusive.
describing about it makes me feel like it's especially that last bit of like how there's like no variety to the environments. Like that was a problem that I remember from like the PS3, Xbox 360 days, where like everything was dark and bleak.
Mhm. So it's just now the cool things are there are some good ideas. You get these like little robot companions with you, and I believe there's like 4 or 5 in the game, and like one is like a dog themed frame, and he allows you to like dig things up in like the ground and stuff. And then there's a spider themed one, and he basically can be used as like the kind of like the grapple beam from Metroid. And then there's a giant gorilla themed one, and he punches through walls. And they all have their own like unique takes to help you in combat. And probably one of the best things I found in combat though was you could summon them down, and what happens is they like launch literally down from the sky and land like Iron Man style. But if you like smack an enemy with them, it'll do it damage. So it's just like, oh, I summon dog form, blam. Okay, good job, puppy.
Do you
And
wonder if maybe the reason people make the Metroidvania comment is only because it has a grapple beam, like Metroid?
and even then, it's not even a great grapple beam because you throw this spider on like a track, and then like a train track kind of looking thing almost, and then it crawls around. And so I guess that gives you kind of maybe also like a morph ball feel from the Metroid Prime games, because remember how the spider ball could only go on like certain tracks?
Yeah.
So there's that. And it's also very
or
what?
Like do you like have to backtrack? Are there puzzles? Like
Yeah, there are puzzles, but I haven't found and but I've also the more I've kind of read about it, the more I found out like they also it's a shooter platformer, and they really have trying to have it so like kind of like the Mario 64 stars. To get to the end of the game, you have to find enough prismatic cores, which are like the stars in the game, and there's like a certain amount, and you find them in the dungeons and stuff like that.
Real fast here. Prismatic cores sounds like the most generic, you gotta collect them all from a video game I have ever heard. That is the most generic name for something. That's more generic than superstars.
true.
Yeah.
It's pretty generic. I mean, but the name of the game isn't like super unique either. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I think
like,
that
what
is
is that supposed to
ultimately
mean?
my biggest thing with it also is this story I've probably plugged in like 15 hours into the game, and it's apparently supposed to be like 30. The story has gone nowhere. Even if it's a bad story, if it goes somewhere within that time, chances are I will stick it out. I played a game where you literally play as a guy going around Akihabara in Japan, tearing people's clothes off because they're vampires, and you expose their skin to vampires. It is literally a bad game and the stupidest plot ever, but because of so many anime in jokes, and just because the story and silliness actually went somewhere in a reasonable enough amount of time, I did finish the game. So, but this, it's just like, okay, there is a bad robot on this planet that we are trying to colonize. Well, why did he go bad? I don't know.
How many hours did you play this game?
Probably like I'd say like 12. Honestly, I think 12.
Okay. And how many hours did you kind of skipped like right through like, Phantom Pain. Like how long did you play that for?
Oh, geez, I played 100 hours of Phantom Pain
Okay. So
because
I didn't want to let you off the hook.
no. I mean,
Two
I was
people.
getting to Phantom Pain, but I just had to.
We could skip Recore.
Yeah,
It's a game. It
yeah,
happens.
it is. It's just it's mediocre. But I felt I had to explain that because like some people are giving it like really nice scores on Metascore, and I'm just kind of like, what? It's just one of those ones. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you are objectively wrong.
I think they're trying
Um,
to make a cult following game versus letting it happen naturally.
mm, as for the Phantom Pain, loved that game. Really, truly loved that game. I don't know
R.I.P.
if it's
Fox
my
Engine.
yeah, I don't know if it's my favorite Metal Gear game, but it is definitely a close contender. I will say though, at the start of the game, I was a bit concerned because I would say it's got like a kind of a slow start. Well, the opening chapter is amazing, but then anything after that is kind of a slow start until I'd say around the middle. And I play Metal Gear games for the Kojima science fiction wackiness, and I really
Yeah.
wasn't getting a lot of that until probably maybe about a third of the way in, and
Okay.
that's when it started hooking me in. And then by the halfway point, I was pretty sold on the whole experience. Um,
I'm gonna have to go
I'm
back and play it.
I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I actually really did like the story, but I can tell from playing it now that clearly Konami was getting fed up with Kojima at this point,
Oh yeah. No.
and so chapter 2 in the game is honestly just a joke. They should have just called it the epilogue and have been done with it, but instead they decided to pad it out by adding in these like bonus like
Repeat missions.
harder difficulty repeat missions, which you don't have to play. I did not play a single one of them. I found out you can do like 3 side missions in between each one. So I actually got a good bit of the side missions finished instead, and then would do like the main story mission to get to the actual ending because I didn't touch a single one of those. I'm just like, this is stupid. I've already done this. Um, and then also kind of the actual like last ending bit to the game, mission 51. It's not even in the game. I guess Kojima got fired before they let him finish it, but they included it on the special edition DVD that
From what
came
I
with.
from what I remember, like he left Konami and then he came back as a consultant to finish the game.
Mm,
To finish it.
yeah, but that would have cleared up pretty much all the plot points for 5 if they had left that in. And it's one of those ones I was just like, oh man, I would have much rather played this than actually just sat and watched this. Because the idea was actually pretty cool, I'd say.
Now,
And
I know
mhm,
overall it wasn't your favorite Metal Gear, but in terms
mhm.
of just gameplay, where does it rank?
um, you know, it's difficult to say because it seems like they keep trying to evolve Metal Gear as the games went on, and so like each Metal Gear was kind of different. Whereas I guess Solid and 2, you had this kind of closed space and kind of places you could backtrack to. Whereas I would say 3 and 4 were more like kind of like how action adventure games had evolved, like with Resident Evil 4, where you've got these lengthy levels, but it's kind of a straight path, and that you don't really return to these areas ever again once you leave them.
They're linear games that look
Hmm.
like they're bigger than they really are.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so Metal Gear Solid 5 was great because you got to revisit these areas. However, again, that was another one of my concerns, though. I guess I could borrow that from Recore. Um, there is 2 environments in that game. There is Afghanistan and there's Africa, and they all start to look pretty similar. So
Yeah.
I gotta admit,
I don't disagree with that.
by the time I got to Africa, I was just like, oh my god, there's another country in this game, you know, because I'm just kind of like, I went from one barren desert wasteland to another. um, but I ended up, I really truly enjoyed it. It's a great game. Uh, I story wise, I feel I 100%ed it. I by no means did that gameplay wise, but by the time I had hit the last mission and had all that stuff, I was good and done with the game. I felt I enjoyed it enough that I actually went to a recent anime convention and I bought a Sahelanthropus model kit to
Nice.
go with my Rex and Ray. So I've got that to build over the summer.
Now
And
you're just
then,
missing Shagahad.
and then my stupid self decided, let's play another really long ass game. And so I started Cyberpunk. And I'm really enjoying that too now, actually. I'm really enjoying the story a lot. I'm very happy I waited until the update came to make it the PS5 version. However, there are still some bugs, clearly, but none of them have been game breaking for me, just cosmetic. And even then, some of them have been kind of funny. So, like at one point, a guy literally walked through a car, just, like walked through it like he was the dad from Heroes, just romp, I'm like, okay, well, that happened. And then also,
Immersion breaking.
yeah, that's the
Hmm.
only bugs I've encountered, but there's also the worst one I've seen so far. And it's so what it is that when there's like you can go to a restaurant in the game, you meet up like with an informant, and all the waitresses are taking your orders on like tablet computers. And what happens is, as like I'm walking in, the tablet is connected to her hand, and but it's just like it looks like this, all right, only with the tablet going into the palm. And then she reaches around back, grabs it, because it's like not supposed to be attached to her hand at the time, and then she's folding it correctly, and I'm like, oops, there's another one. So just funny stuff like that. But those are the two most egregious ones. But everything else, like I haven't had any like villains T pose on me or just stop moving or anything. Uh, I've had plenty of like really intense firefights and had no problem with those. And
Right.
the
So I,
lore that they have built for this game is wonderful, and I really like investigating all the different gangs that are in the story. And some of these are like these gangs are literally addicted to augmenting themselves, and so to the point that like they don't look really human anymore. And
okay.
so there's a lot of that, and I've been really enjoying that too.
I mean, that's a very cyberpunk thing. Now,
Hmm.
I haven't. I think I played the prologue. Um, we'll get to my giant monologue of what I've been playing for the last 2 months, but I played through the prologue of Cyberpunk, and that was one of the big takeaways that I got from playing the game was, holy crap, this is much better than everyone said. One of
Hmm.
the things that was interesting was, this plays much better as a shooter than I expected for a game made by people who make RPGs.
Yeah,
The
it's
mechanics are actually really good.
yeah,
It's surprising. It's not like you're playing like a Fallout where they have to invent a mechanic because the shooting's that bad.
yeah.
Right.
Oh god.
I actually tried it on the original Xbox when it first came out, and
Hmm.
that's the big difference is it's playing smoothly now for you guys, but when it first
Yeah.
came out on the past gen consoles, it wasn't that it had low frame rate. It was a slideshow when it got into gun battles. It was
Oof.
literally unplayable.
Mm.
That's so I think it's always been a good, if not great game. I think it just came out on the wrong console. They needed another year in the oven.
Yep.
No, I mean, and that's what's interesting. I followed a lot of the hubbub that's been around this game. As a fan of CD Projekt Red, Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games that I've played, also made by them. And the devs, there's documentation and there's excerpts from them basically saying that yeah, they thought the game would be ready by 2022. Yeah, so
Mhm.
now's when it should have came out. It
Way to
probably
go,
shouldn't.
execs.
Probably shouldn't have been a last gen game.
Yeah.
Well, at least Halo learned from them and like, I'm gonna hold up a minute.
Yep.
True. I think a lot of there's probably even stories we won't hear about.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Of course.
They're like, oh, we'll push. Rather make don't want to ruin our reputation by releasing a game before it's ready to come out of the oven.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, did you have any other games that you wanted to talk about, or was that I kind of jumped in on you?
No, that's fine. That is all I have played. So, as we were talking before, you were asking me, so like, what are your games for the summer? And I'm like, short ones. So actually, I think the one I am planning on representing with my T-shirt tonight, my Jet Set Radio T-shirt.
Nice.
So I always loved that for the Dreamcast, but I never beat it. So I think I'm gonna do a couple retro games over the summer. I've sold a couple things and have financed getting some rarer games that I've always wanted, but the price was always an obstacle.
Mhm.
But some of the items I sold made it so that wasn't an issue. So ultimately, I was basically selling and breaking even on these things. So I was able to pick up Chibi Robo for the GameCube, Haunting Ground for PS2, and a couple others that I wanted, but I wanted officially, but never could never could bring myself to pay that much money. When now it's to the point I'm like, well, I'm not actually losing money.
Fair.
Yep.
Fair. Chris, what have you
My
been playing?
monologue time. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. No. It's been a while. So at the start of the year, I was playing Persona 5 Strikers, which is the first Muso game that I have attempted to play since I think I tried Samurai Warriors way back when on the PSP. Why? Because I wanted a game to play on my handheld, and honestly, I've never really been a fan of Muso games. I tried it, and they're okay. I think the other one I remember playing was I think it was the Gundam Dynasty Warriors game. If
Oh
you remember
yeah,
that one
yeah.
was called.
Dynasty Warriors Gundam. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. This one is actually pretty good. I ended up finishing the game. I did most of the side content. And a lot of it, I think it was just like I'm coming back to hang out with my pals from Persona 5.
Oh yeah. Oh
It-
yeah.
it's just another romp, right? It felt like, they're on summer vacation, they're solving another mystery. The Phantom Thieves are back, baby. So, I mean, I can say I like a Muso game, and that Muso game is P5 Strikers. If you like Persona 5, I highly recommend it. The one drawback is that it pretends like Royal doesn't exist. So,
Oh really?
yeah. So,
Oh, that's a shame because that's the one I played. I didn't play the original Persona.
yeah, so I mean, there'll be some differences that you'll notice when you get if you play it, Dave.
No, I plan on
But
playing it at
you
some.
should play it. You'll like it.
I had hoped that they would have made it in a way so that they don't maybe have to address Persona 5 Royal, but it at least wouldn't conflict.
Man,
So who knows?
yeah, no, it is what it is. Hold on just a second. The next big game that I ended up playing was Horizon Forbidden West, which I loved that game. That game was awesome. Highly recommend it. I know it's largely being overshadowed, at least in conversation, by Elden Ring, and a lot of that's just because it's at least on paper and at least just looking at it, it looks like more of the same. And until you get into like the Forbidden West, literally the title area, because you actually don't start in the Forbidden West.
Okay.
You will play probably about 10 hours, depending on how much of the like side content that you do before you get into the Forbidden West when you play the game. Mild spoiler.
Okay.
But once you do, game opens up. There's a lot of new extra things that they've added. That I mean, the combat and the gameplay is added. It's bumped up to a whole nother level. One of the things I will say, one of my criticisms of like the original game was that there's other weapons besides bows in Zero Dawn, but I didn't really use them. I remember watching Mickey play, my wife, and she actually used the traps in Zero Dawn, and I was like, oh, those things. I forgot you even had them. I used them in Zero Dawn. I never did. And in Forbidden West, I for a while there, I actually played like the trapper. What do they call it? The trapper play style, the trapper role. Because I enjoyed it. I found them actually the traps to be useful in this game, and some of the trap style weapons that you use. So I found like it really grew into like it's part of the reason why it isn't going to be seemingly very different than the original. It's largely because it's still a story about Aloy. You still got your robot dinos. The core gameplay is taking out robot dinos, and there's more of them. And the new ones, oh man, I'm not going to say anything about them, but there's some really good ones. Oh, oof. But where they've gone in and done a lot of their homework is in the systems. And it's not the sexy stuff that you want to hear when you talk about role playing games, but it's the important stuff that make the game feel more rich, more dynamic. It's really surprising me when, like, you know, with it being an open world, that you would go do stuff and, important things of the story, and you would actually like go talk to other characters, which are kind of like resolving like their part in the story. They would talk to you about it, right? And if you ever talk to them, again, like doing a side quest, like they actually put in the time and effort to build out that world. And I mean, oh gosh, the facial animations are so much better than the first. It's a much more immersive, much more realistic game. Yeah, people should definitely play it. Don't sleep on it. I think that come end of year, it's not going to win Game of the Year, but I think it'll still be in the conversation as it deserves to be.
I think Dunkey made a very good point about it. He was talking about the last one being overshadowed pretty badly as well because it came out like what, a month or the same month Breath of the Wild
it was
did?
a week. It came out a week before Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
No, and I actually, to tell you the truth, I kind of feel like that what PlayStation will end up doing is something similar to what they did with Zero Dawn, which was they waited a while, they released an expansion, and then I imagine the most sales that they got for that game were for the complete edition. And they'll probably do the same thing for Forbidden West. The game is definitely ripe for an expansion of some sort. I have my ideas for what that could be, and I hope I'm right. But man, there's a lot of game there, and I did get the platinum trophy in the game, and honestly, it's very. I'm a little disappointed, and this is, I guess, one of my criticisms of being a trophy hunter. The trophy is actually way easier than I thought it should have been to get. There's a lot of stuff that's just like, okay, you tried it, cool. You're done now. You don't have to go do that now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I guess you
just
want
asked
me to...
that you try it. You don't have to.
There's a lot of stuff that I did, and the way that I do like my trophy hunting, just so I don't spoil anything for myself, is, you know, as I get, or as I when I complete the game, I'll go back and I'll look, see like
Mm-hmm.
what I missed, and there's a lot of stuff that I ended up doing thinking that it would be a trophy that wasn't.
Mm. Gotcha. Oh, no, I anticipate I want to play that game. I really enjoyed the first one too, but I've also told myself that I want to play the expanded version expansion of the first one before I get into the sequel. And so I have the complete edition now, and I ended up giving the vanilla edition to my brother and sister-in-law, and so he got to enjoy it, and he platinumed it as well, and so it was a fair deal for all. But I've never really found the time, because I also really remember how much of a time investment the original game was. And honestly, that was when I plugged in the original game. I'm just like, yeah, let's just play this game. It'll probably be 20 hours, and it's just like I'm on hour 60. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, I think it took me. Never mind. I don't remember. I'll have to look at my time clock. It took me a while to get through. I'm somewhere in between like 80 and 100 hours.
A hot minute.
yep, yep.
And then I guess to finish my monologue, my story is not too dissimilar to what you were saying, Dave, because I played such a big game. I didn't want to play anything big. My plan was to go jump into Cyberpunk because I played the prologue. I jumped into the prologue because that patch came out for Cyberpunk, and I was like, all right, let's go. But then I just got sucked into Forbidden West, and I never looked back. So what I've been playing lately, with the whole, spoiler alert for the topic of the show, but I went and picked up a PlayStation Now subscription so I could get my extended subscription for PlayStation Plus and get the newly branded PS Plus Premium, because why not? And I've never given PlayStation Now a fair shake at all. I'd never even tried it, right? So I tried the streaming. I played Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus, which is the game that actually takes place before Rift Apart. Um, and it's I'll say this about the streaming: it worked better than I thought it was going to work. The downside to it is you're playing a PS3 game, so comes with all the problems of playing a PS3 game, right? It's an old game, right?
Yeah.
You don't get any of the advantage of playing it on newer hardware. I did have some stuttering that happened 3 times for me when I played through about a 10-hour game, and it didn't last very long. But at the same time, also, I have a gigabit internet connection at home, so I crush the minimum requirements for what's needed.
And you still had a stuttering problem.
And I still had a stuttering problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that would be annoying.
yeah, it's not the best way to play those games. I mean, to spoil, I guess, like, my apprehension. I mean, I'm clearly in, but I'm also the target audience. I consider myself to be a hardcore PlayStation gamer. I want to play the classic games. I just hope that they do it. I hope they do it service. And I mean, what's there now really isn't a great foot forward. I understand why PlayStation Now never really took off. In addition to the branding problems, it's not great. It's okay.
Gotcha.
And now I will say this: they did do VRR support for PlayStation. I actually started playing Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart because it's fun, and because the game is now it reaches like in like 100 frames per second, and it is already amazingly beautiful anyways. And clearly I like Ratchet and Clank, so
Nice.
but yeah, that brings me to the present. So Tyler, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a myriad of games as well. Per the game exchange from the beginning of the year, I have been working on Ghost of Tsushima, and the feel of that game. Did either of you guys play it on the PS5?
Yes.
No, I did not.
as soon as that cut came out, man, I played the I didn't play through like the original game. I did the expansion, the Icky Island expansion.
I've been
I
meaning
don't
to
know.
do that as
I
well.
I don't know how, but they somehow made that game prettier and play better. And it's not like the original
Was
wasn't
bad.
pretty,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it somehow had fast loading times on PS4 hardware. I don't know how, but it did.
It is absolutely gorgeous, like you said. I'm playing it at the frame rate settings, so 60 FPS. Um, but the thing that's really surprising me, and I didn't think would surprise me this much, is that haptic feedback. That
Yeah.
is, especially on horseback, where if I'm running, I can feel the difference between running in a field versus running on a dirt road versus running on stone with the horse. And
Wow.
that it is no sound, it's all feel. And it is so impressive. Gameplay is fantastic. Love the countering system. I'm really starting to get into the flow of switching between the different styles depending which enemy I have.
Right.
It's not an easy game, but I'm loving it thus far. So
Yeah, it's not
that's
an easy game, but I never felt it was unfair
yeah,
either.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Um, so that's one game. I have dived into the Rick and Morty of video games, which is Elden Ring. I make that comparison because the fanboys of it are trying to ruin it by overhyping it too much. Um, I, if you have any inclination to try it, what I will say is it is easier than Bloodborne or Dark Souls. It's got a lot of feel similar to Breath of the Wild. And what I mean by that is it's open world. It doesn't really have missions. You just see something cool and go to it, and just get in awe about all the weird things that you see along the path. Um, it is tough, but when you start leveling up and start finding some of these newer weapons that all play differently, that's when the game really kind of opens up, and you start feeling that it's fair.
I gotcha. I
Um,
did pick up Elden Ring. I don't know if I'm going to play it immediately, but I had
Man,
some.
you're a glutton for punishment, Dave. You're like,
Yeah,
Metal Gear Solid, Phantom
yeah,
Pain, Cyberpunk, now Elden
yeah,
Ring.
yeah.
You're not
yeah,
gonna play anything else, man.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to play it soon, but I had a number of like GameStop coupons
mm,
for building up points that I think were going to go out, and like I had cash on me for some reason, which is unusual. So I'm just like, technically, this is only really going to cost me $30. So, and they didn't have Horizon Forbidden West, so I'm like, Elden Ring, it is.
There you go.
my one recommendation whenever you start the game, nope, no rush,
Hmm.
is just remember this one lesson. If something seems too tough, you can walk away from it. You
That's true.
don't you don't not from the game, just from that enemy. You can go to somewhere else.
Hmm.
The game is designed to sometimes have things that are super difficult that you cannot beat from the get-go or from
Hmm.
where you're at that point, just to encourage you to come back, because always be in the back of your mind of like, am I strong enough now? I'll go back, try.
Hmm.
Nope.
Nope,
And
nope, 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 nope. So much nope.
yep. Um, so been playing that. I did find an Xbox Series X, and I didn't even buy new games for it. I've just been going back and trying old games on it, and it is freaking fantastic. I am so surprised on how well that uh, FPS boost works. It makes Overwatch on a Xbox play at 120 frames per second. It is it's eye bleeding good in terms of visual. Uh, and the quick resume is honestly really darn impressive. Having up to 5 games where I just pop back in right where I was, uh, fantastic. So I went from like Sonic Mania to Control to uh, Destiny, just hopping back and forth between all of them.
Nice.
So much fun. And then there's the one that I got because I have some other friends that aren't you guys asked me to get to play with them. Mario Golf Super Rush.
Wow. Okay.
surprisingly fun. Um,
Okay.
it's I know it didn't get the most glowing of reviews when it came out, but honestly, it's got a lot of diversity in terms of the courses, in terms of how you even play the game. You could take turns like old traditional golf games, or you could all just go all at the same time, just run to your ball and just keep golfing.
Something.
All
Um,
right, that sounds good.
and there's even
Race mode.
there's even actually there's even a battle mode where you're trying to sink all the holes before your opponent, and that's how you win. It's almost like a race, in like you were
Nice.
saying there. Um,
Okay.
I'd been
it,
tempted to get that because I feel like that is a game I could get to play with my dad. There were
well,
certain games like as kids we would always try and get him to play, and it's funny because he was the guy who got me and my brother into video games, but he like eventually got to the point where it's just kind of like I can't keep up with this crap, and it's just. But that was like with the original Nintendo, so like I know he would like plug in Castlevania sometimes at night when I was going to bed, but anymore he's just kind of like and he gladly listens to what I'm playing. Like when I was playing the Mass Effect series, I was working with him at the same company at the same time, so he'd be like, we'd get in the car in the morning. It's like, okay, what's the recap? Because he was so invested in the storyline, and how I was playing it that I would have to recap the events of the evening before to him on the road in the morning. And he loved it. And so he's just kind of like would then ask, like, well, what does a Turian look like? And he's just like, so I showed him I had a figure of Garrus, and he's just like, oh, this is completely different than what I imagined. So that was the cool part for him, just like imagining in his head what he thought stuff was, and then also seeing compared to the actual thing. But now anymore, it's just like we'll be talking about games, and then he's just like, I'm like, think we were going on vacation to like the UK, and we were going to be on a long airplane flight, and he's just looking at stuff, and he's like, wait, you have Mario Tennis? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I'll play that game. So we ended up playing Mario because he understands tennis. He likes tennis. But it's just like, I'm going to throw a fireball at you. You can't throw fireballs in tennis. You can now.
well, and it's actually kind of fun too because it does have the Joy Cons, so you can play it like a traditional golf game, or you can go Wii Sports on it and swing that way.
I
So
got you.
there's multiple ways to play that, and it's a lot of fun. Last game I've been playing is my phone had finally died after 3 years, so I got a new phone, and I just wanted to kind of try out the graphics and whatnot, see what games it could play on it. And I or may not have gotten hooked on another Pokemon game.
Okay.
Pokemon Unite.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I saw the eye roll there, Chris.
No judgment from here. I was
Uh,
hoping you were going to say Dragalia lost.
oh no, I
At the
broke.
times when I played them.
I've played way too many hours of Dragalia Lost.
Oh. Well, okay
AKA the slutty summon game.
then.
That's surprisingly a Nintendo game. But
Yeah, I do wish Nintendo would bring it to consoles in some version, but
I mean, it is ripe to be their answer to Diablo,
oh, okay.
because that's really how it plays on the mobile for Dragalia Lost,
Hmm.
and I think that could have been a banger of a game. So fingers crossed they one day do that. But
Okay.
going back to Pokemon Unite, I actually find that I like the touch controls more than the controller controls on the Switch for it.
wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, I did not expect that, but and it's
Okay.
I realize it's baby's first MOBA, but it's fun, and just like any other mobile game I play, I don't pay a cent for it. I know I can, but I choose not to, and I just like all the things that really cost money in the game that will take too long to earn are cosmetic. You can
Hmm.
legitimately earn all the characters you want to play in this game.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Uh,
but that's what kind of got me thinking about the topic tonight. So Topic of the night: subscription services and our thoughts on them for video games. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Sure.
and it. And
How do you want to start with this? Like,
I
don't
want
know,
to start.
talking like
I want to
Do you
start
want
with
to
the.
take a commercial break first before, or
Yeah. You know what? Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back and talk about the topic. This episode is brought to you by Syrup Shots Gaming Podcast. Like going to a diner late at night, taking a shot of syrup. It's probably a bad idea, but we're going to do it anyway. If you like this content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. You know that usual general stuff that people ask you to do. What's that? You want to leave us a review? Fantastic. You can leave a 5-star review, wink wink, at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get this great content. Thank you for choosing to listen to us, and we look forward to bringing you more dumb content in the future. All right, and welcome back to the podcast. So I want to start off with a story that made me kind of think of all of this here. So when Apple Arcade first came out, they gave everyone like 3 months free to try it out. Most of the games are so-so on it, but there was one game that I absolutely loved on it. It was called Grindstone. Are either of you familiar with it?
I can't say I've heard that one.
Okay, it's actually on the Switch now. It wasn't
Okay.
then, so remember that, okay?
Okay.
It's a puzzle game, but the way the puzzle works is you're like this Norlandic like barbarian type character who has to go through
Okay.
monsters. So you have to draw a path through all monsters of the same color to swipe through them. And if you let monsters sit there without being attacked for too long, they'll start attacking you, and you only have so much health.
Okay.
And it just adds in different kind of blocks and things to stop you, and there's different combos. Like if you go so many, it'll drop a diamond, where if you hit that, it'll basically you can start another string with a different color. And it was a lot of fun, and it had hundreds and hundreds of levels. Okay, I know,
So
but I
this sounds more like a puzzle game.
it is.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. It is a puzzle game, but it is a very, very, very fun puzzle game.
Okay.
And I would have been willing to buy it. I would have been
Mhm.
willing to, just like nothing else on the subscription was really calling to me, even though it was only $5 a month. I just wanted that one game on my phone. It was the perfect, I'm going to do a quick puzzle on my phone game. You still cannot buy it on iPhone or Android. The only way you can get it on mobile is with Apple Arcade. And that infuriates me when they lock games or any kind of content behind a streaming service. Even Netflix, even if it's not at first, releases most of those series on DVD.
Sure. Well, a lot of their stuff goes to movie theaters these days. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's another one of my big worries. Now I understand when like a game company or a streaming service makes their own shows and stuff like that. That is understandable. But you're right. Even then, after a while, after they've kind of gotten all their new subscriptions over it, they'll make a DVD. I got a season 1 special edition of Stranger Things that's made to look like an old rental VHS box, and it's
Nice.
amazing. And that is exactly the kind of thing I want and I'm talking about. So, that's how I get my Stranger Things fix anymore.
So tying back into the news of the new PlayStation Now, we have the PlayStation Now Basic, Extra, Premier, whatever they called it there, the 3 tiers. Tier 1 is just old school PlayStation Plus. Tier 2 lets you download or stream PS4 games and stream PS3 games because they have not figured out a good emulation for PS3 games. The Premier one, though,
so not quite. So all the streaming stuff is in the premium. The extra one is no streaming. It's downloading PS4 and PS5 games. So they're middle.
Oh,
tier
you're
is
right.
really
You're right. You're right. You're right. My
middle tier is
apologies.
the closest one to like a Game Pass like competitor, where the premium tier is kind of like Ultimate.
One slight difference though, because I was looking at their fine print there. PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games, you're able to download on your PS5.
I know. which that is new, by the way. As a current subscriber to PS Now,
Mhm.
the only PS2 games that are downloadable on Now are downloadable because they ported them to PS4.
Mhm.
So there's no PS1 on PS Now at all today. There's no PSP either.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I was like, cool. I may not be big for that service, but there's a few old school PS2 games I'd love to get. You know,
Mhm.
you can't buy them. They're not selling them. They're only going to be available through their streaming service. That
As far as we know.
infuriates me. Yeah, and that infuriates me. Uh, the whole point of I'm going to sound like a Xbox pony right now, but one of the great things about Xbox Game
Correction.
Pass.
There are ponies and there are Xbots.
Okay, I'm an Xbot. I'm an Xbot. I'm going to sound like an Xbot right now.
I used to be on Twitter, so I know the terminology. Trust me, the
You have
console
no
wars are
idea
alive and
what
well on
you're
that
talking
damn platform.
I have
The-
not bothered with console wars in so long because it's just like I love everything and will play everything.
Right.
Mhm.
What I like about Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or any of their versions of Game Pass is it's an option, not a forced choice. There is nothing that is going to be on Game Pass that I can't just go and buy.
True.
That is the biggest distinguisher. So Game Pass for me, there's some games that I'm going to want to try out, but not necessarily want to purchase. Cool. That's a quick, easy way for me to do that. You know, I can. I actually downloaded today that Trek to Yuma to try it out.
Track to Yomi.
Yomi, thank you.
No problem. It looks
But
beautiful. It's a good
oh
game.
yeah, I downloaded. I haven't gotten a chance to play yet. Work was bonkers today. But that's kind of my thing here is as we're starting these new like kind of streaming console wars there, do you guys think we're going to see more games vaulted behind these subscription services?
Nintendo's already been doing it, man. They've been doing
Oh,
it for.
don't.
I mean, that's what we don't. There is no virtual console. Virtual console is dead. It died with the Wii U. All we have is
Don't
what
remind
Nintendo.
me. I've been picking up Nintendo game cards at the grocery store every time I go for the past 2 months. I think I've spent well over $100 on Virtual Console Wii U shop titles, and I'm not done yet. And I still haven't touched the 3DS.
It's insane to me how you have these games for current gen consoles that can absolutely play them. I mean, they are playing them. The only one I give any leniency to is the PS3 because that cell processor makes it an emulation nightmare.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy to think. I've watched enough content and heard all the tech specs. I didn't realize it, way back when I used to play my, PS3 all the time. And my God, I mean, that was so long ago at this point. But that system has the cell architecture is a 128-bit processor. You know how weird that is? That is so strange.
Yeah,
So
because
modern PCs are 64-bit, right?
mm-hmm.
So way back when the father of PlayStation decided, which by the way, if you didn't know, the cell architecture was made by Kutaragi, who is the
Okay.
father of PlayStation, and after the PS3, he retired. So he's the one that made it. It was supposed to be like Sony's big supercomputer, and I know a lot of big like agencies ended up buying the PS3s who use them as supercomputers because they could run Linux and they could do all kinds of crazy things if you learned how to use the exotic architecture. But in addition to the weird processor architecture, with it being a 128 bits, they had SPUs, which had each SPU had a half gig of RAM. And the reason why it's so hard to emulate PS3 games is because apparently all the devs that did it well used it differently. because the whole trick to the making a really good PS3 game, one that looked really well or ran really well, whatever it was figuring out unique ways to use these SPUs that were you can kind of use like there was additional memory. Though, I mean, it technically was a processing unit.
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
So,
like
so
I
you
said,
have to basically like build an emulator that's an emulator for every game, right? And the games that we want are probably going to be like the big ones, anyways, the big splashy ones. And at least they ported some of those. Like, there's at least Last of Us is on PS4, the Uncharted collection is on PS4, so you can get away with not having to do. They even ported God of War 3 as a PS4 game. But
Mhm.
there's still quite a few things that are locked there that are unfortunate. Like I want my Resistance series. Why is it that I can only play Resistance 3 on PS Now? I can't play Resistance 1. I can't play Resistance 2. Where's Infamous?
Killzone
Yeah.
3.
Mm.
What's that?
Killzone 3.
Yeah. I mean, there's some gaps, and it's really weird on a a PlayStation subscription service, and I really hope that they fix this with it rolling into Plus. There should be all of the first party games because there's no reason not to have them. They own the licenses. They should all be there.
Are you talking about like the old first party games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about new ones? So, like, where do you stand with like?
Oh, yeah. I mean, PlayStation's never going to do day and date. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say never because even Jim Ryan won't say never. They aren't doing it right now. They won't do it until they feel like they have to do it to compete. And I get it.
Yeah, totally get it. But it's just I am so torn on this because I like the subscription services as an option, but I've got enough subscription services. I don't want to feel like I'm being forced into any.
And that's kind of where I land on the subscription services. Like I'm gonna try out PS Plus Premium just because I'm curious, and I mean I got a sweet deal on it, right? I paid half price, you know.
That they are now blocking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I get it. I get why they did that. I know a lot of people are really mad, and it sucks if you went to the trouble of going to a retail store and buying a card that you can't use. And
Mhm.
eventually you will be able to use it. It's just you're not going to get a full year. You won't be able to get the steal that like I got when I jumped
Right.
on the PS Now
Mhm.
thing. So it sucks. It is what it is. It's business. This is if we were to on the if this were on the other side, I can't imagine that this would be something that Xbox would do because they don't do things like that. Xbox allows you to completely abuse the $1 Game Pass conversion
Oh,
thing.
oh, they let you abuse that. Oh, so hard.
Yeah, so I mean they've never stopped people from doing that. So why if the shoe were on the other foot, I don't think they would do this. But it's PlayStation, right? And sometimes I don't think PlayStation's ever as you know bad as Nintendo with some of the decisions that they do. But I mean, I feel like if there's a spectrum, like PlayStation's definitely in the middle between Nintendo and Microsoft, so they're not quite as consumer friendly as Microsoft.
They
I
still got some very old Japanese boomers at these companies that make some very strange decisions, and it's just kind of like, guys, you're an international company in the 2020s right now. What are you doing? And it's just like, uh, goodness, retire already.
retire or listen to the people around you.
At this point, retire.
Yeah. Uh, I was gonna say something. What was I about to say? Don't you hate it when that happens? Just giant brain fart.
It's
Yeah,
unfortunate, Dave. What are your thoughts on all of the subscription madness? Are you
I
are
liked
you
it.
uh, are
It's
you a
clearly
fan?
not. It's clearly not for me. It clearly is not. It's not something I would personally do because I'm also a collector firmly with these games, and usually once a game enters my collection, unless it's a double or unless it is absolute garbage, it is not going to leave that collection anymore.
Mhm.
You know, I had a big purge a couple of years ago, the first time I moved, and that was literally me moving from upstairs to my kid bedroom to downstairs in my parents' basement for the NEET that I was, because I was not in education anymore or employment or training at the time. It was just Big Dave downstairs looking for a job. So, but there was so much stuff to take downstairs. I got rid of over like 200 games. And now since I've bought my own house and everything, it's just like, the second time I was just like everything is coming with me. So, you know, my collection is like a black hole. Things go in, very rarely do things come out. So, but that's me, and I'm not every other person. So I liked it when Tyler said, this would be great for an option for the budget conscious gamer who doesn't have like the money that that I am happy to enjoy right now. And even then, some people would be like, "Wow, you're able to do that on that budget?" Because I have a teacher salary, and it's just like, yeah, because I've been smart about it for years. Um, but that would be
So
great for like some of my kids at school. That's perfect for them. Okay, I can buy a $60 game and maybe have one game every 3 months, maybe, if I'm not working and just get an allowance, if that.
Mm.
Or I can spend, how much is it a month for place?
$15.
Yep, $15 a month, which I could probably scrounge together at least $5 a week. That leaves me with $5 left over at the end of the month. And I get to play as many games on that service as I want. That makes perfect sense. But the thing I do get mad about is yes, we do have some titles that are locked on this service because, the companies, unfortunately, we do live in a society right now where companies are exceptionally greedy and they're no longer trying to hide it in some cases anymore. And so I do get bugged by that. Now I could understand maybe starting your game out on that service, and then it's just like, oh, okay. But this is going to come down out later down the line as a full release, all right? Or maybe they test the beta on the service. I can't
yeah, but
talking.
I mean, and that's I mean, the thing is that's where there's certainly going to be differences with the different subscriptions. I mean, the argument for Game Pass and why people think why it's so sexy for a lot of folks is that it's day one Xbox exclusives on the service. You don't ever have to buy Halo Infinite. You don't ever have to buy was it Starfield, right?
Mhm.
Mm,
You just pay your subscription, you get the games, right?
mm-hmm.
I'm
I
actually
see Tyler. I see your hand up. What's up?
I'm actually going to disagree with you slightly. I don't think that's the sexiest draw of Xbox Game Pass, and the reason I say
I mean
that it
that's mostly what I hear, right, from people.
I
So I
mean
mean,
that is kind of the marketing pull, but if you really think about it, there Xbox doesn't have that many like banger original games yet,
they
At
haven't.
but
all
I mean,
right
that's
now,
that's
really.
been, that's kind of been the problem.
they have made partnerships. They have made smart partnerships. You have all of the EA Access games on there now. You've got indies coming out on there. You've got
Yeah,
freaking
but
Guard.
aren't the EA games only trials though?
No, I get EA Access with it. I've got Mass Effect trilogy on my PS or on my Xbox right now, playing at 120 frames per second.
Nice.
For some reason, I thought maybe it's just because EA's subscription model is confusing.
So
Don't they
so
have a tier that is just like trials or something like that?
so it it's conflating two different things there. So EA Access doesn't give you the brand new games right at launch, but usually about 6 months down the line they do. The EA Access
Oh,
does give
okay.
you like 3 hours to try each game, a brand new
Which
ones.
which I will say, I mean, that leads into one of the things that while you guys were talking that I find really interesting about that may be like the underrated potentially, because I mean it's really hard to talk about a subscription service that doesn't exist, but PS Plus Premium, one of the recent things they've been talking about in the news is that to certify a new game on PlayStation on the store, devs, if it's a full price game. So I think they released the value. I think a retail value of a 34.99 game, which comes out to basically a $50 game
Yeah,
price
I was gonna
or
say
more.
the wholesale price of the game
Yeah,
is
yeah.
is thirty four
That's what
nine.
I meant
Yeah,
to say. Yeah. So basically, it's not going to be an indie game, right? We're talking about, these are your basically AAA games, right? $50 or more.
Mhm.
You're going to have at least a minimum of a 2-hour trial, which, I mean, honestly, that could save money. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons why I even started looking at like review scores. Not that I particularly think that they're super valued, but a lot of times what I'm looking for, or even when I watch like YouTube videos or like Let's Plays or anything like that, hey, just like everybody, I'm sure, spending $60, $70 on a game and then realizing, oh shit, this isn't for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like this game. I know that there's an audience for this, but especially in the new world order that we live in, where like I think most people are buying games digitally, and if you buy a game digitally, there, especially on PlayStation, there is no refund policy. Like if
Mhm.
you start playing it, it's yours,
I
unless you're Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and just to chime in, I do think that physical media is still higher, but the digital number has been creeping ever higher, 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 and it's getting close to more 50-50 sooner rather than later in terms of digital versus physical.
And it's so hard to gauge because not everyone shares their digital sales. Like when you look at the
And
NDP numbers,
Nintendo's
yeah,
notorious for that. They don't share their the digital sales.
yeah. And I wish they did. I feel like that would be really kind of give you an idea of how they're doing. But I know that it's a company; they don't have to.
Yeah.
I did. Did you guys also see that Xbox with their suite of services made another shot today at Android and iPhone?
No.
I saw something in the news about how Fortnite's coming back to iOS and it's through Xbox, but I had a long busy day at work, so I have no idea beyond that.
So the cloud gaming for Xbox
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
now has Fortnite on there
Oh, okay.
for free. You don't have to have Game Pass.
Nice.
Oh, smart.
It is the hook to get people on there and then saying, "Oh, there's all these games."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, xCloud or that is what it's called, right?
Hmm.
That they're running that on iOS through a browser still, or is there an app?
No, it's through a browser, but it works. It
Okay.
works really well.
Cool.
Well, as it runs better than PlayStation Now. Let me just say that.
I have no idea. I've never tried xCloud.
I've tried both. Placed, and it's honestly a hard comparison. Sony was never going to win that fight because they don't have the Azure cloud services. You know.
I mean, Microsoft is the second richest company in the world, people. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, yeah, it's true, right? I mean, that's why it was so strange that the last episode, that we did, the acquisition wars, right? I mean, it's really hard to imagine anyone being able to compete with a company that wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a topic for another episode. There is someone that's fighting them though now. The FTC.
Yeah. I mean, that's getting into a whole bunch of legalese. I don't know if you really want to make that kind of content.
They're also looking into the Bungie Sony acquisition.
I don't doubt it.
We'll save that for when we decide to do fall asleep ASMR content.
In our radio, today we're going to be talking about the FTC and antitrust cases.
Okay, Ira class.
All right. Well, guys, before we end for the night, I want to play a fun game, okay? Because there's a lot of, I'm going to flick myself out there. There's a lot of dumb out, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And people are promoting things that are super dumb and super greedy, but no one seems to know fully what it is. So I want to play a game where I want you guys to tell me what this is. What is a metaverse?
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
I
I
hate
have,
that that
I
thing
have,
has been
s-
branded.
I have searched, and I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about?
So
It's like
go ahead. Go ahead.
I,
I have an answer, but
I thought it was like them trying to preemptively get a hold of a branding for like a Ready Player One type VR thing, is what I read. But I'm just kind of like, I don't think we are there technologically yet. So why are we even bothering right now? It's like you're trying to brand for a digital landscape that doesn't exist yet. But, so what is the point? Am I,
in
am I wrong?
no, I mean, and that's kind of the problem with the metaverse is it's marketing buzzwords, so it kind of
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean anything. But
Mm,
I mean, I think what the core of what it's trying to get at is that video games make a ton of money, or any kind of interactive entertainment make a ton of money right now. And I
mm-hmm.
think the rest of the world is starting to realize that. And what they're trying to do is coin a phrase of let's bring more stuff into the interactive entertainment space, whether that be advertising, whether
Mm-hmm.
that be events like what Fortnite does, where they do concerts or they do like reaction or like where they watch
Trailers.
trailers, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of crossover type event. Fortnite basically is a giant crossover game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that it makes sense for Epic to be investing a lot of money into something that they're already doing. But I do think that the branding, it's a dumb name, and
Mm-hmm.
I wish it would go away. I mean, it's big enough for Facebook to rebrand their entire company as Meta. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
One last one, because way too many video game companies are talking about this. What is an NFT?
Non-fungible token.
Digital pogs is what NFTs are.
I've heard the best answer. No effing thanks.
That's funny. That's funny.
Mm,
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's a way for them to put a price on something that technically prior to that was free for everybody, right?
mm,
So it's a piece of art that someone can own because they have the one like crypto like token for it. But I mean, does it really mean anything? I mean, I guess for the person who owns it, I suppose.
I mean, they've even talked about doing it for like DLC for games where you get this helmet and it has this specialized code that shows that it's yours. I don't care about the serial code. All you're doing is trying to create artificial scarcity.
mm-hmm.
Stop
So
it.
what actually would be really cool, and I know it won't happen because, the thing is that, video games are a business.
Hmm.
They're both an art form and a business. And what would be really cool, and we actually have the technology to do this because that's what I mean, crypto lets you do, is you technically could provide a way for people to actually trade digital that
Mm-hmm.
they're never going to do
Yeah.
because there's no money in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're it's they're going digital to get rid of like the GameStops and the reseller market. They're not going to let you do it with the
Not
digital
going to
now.
create they're not going to create a reseller market because then there's no money for them.
Yep.
Yeah. Unless they try and treat it like eBay, where they take 10%.
I've actually
I
got
mean,
some.
the storefronts are getting like 70%, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a total big difference between retail. When they sell it at a
Mhm.
retail store, they're only getting half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That extra 20% is why, all these storefronts have become so rich. Why Valve doesn't have to make video games, even though they used to be one of the prominent
Right.
publishers and video game makers in the world.
I'm just surprised no one's really taken on Valve, and Valve has to step up their game again. But I kind of have a feeling it's only a matter of time with Valve. I just before they have to do something to kind of change things up a bit. I don't know. I just
Like the
when like
Steam
a
Deck.
game, not even that, but when like a game company has done the same thing the same way for so long, inevitably you're eventually gonna breed in a weakness, and like someone has yet to exploit that just yet, but I think it's coming. So
I mean, the
you
Epic
know,
Game Store is making a valiant launch at that, underselling
hmm
them,
hmm
giving a larger percentage to the actual game developers.
that's true.
Now,
That's true.
but
Sure.
Steam is kind of hoping for the Apple effect. They've got you so rooted in that it's going to be too hard to switch over.
Mm,
It's
true.
large. I mean, there's still a much bigger launcher. It's crazy how many launchers there are on PC, but really pretty much everyone plays on Steam,
hmm
Mm-hmm.
even now.
Yep. That's why I play Destiny on. Now that it's no longer on the what is Activision Blizzard's launcher called? I can't remember. Battle.net.
Cosby. What does that know it's called?
Oh,
I mean, it's appropriate
that was
or
so
inappropriate
stupid.
depending on how you call it.
The Cosby
uh,
Show.
The,
the
the,
Cosby launcher.
their chat rooms are called the Cosby Suites.
Oh Jesus.
And with that,
Uh,
everyone, I think that was a fantastic episode. Any last words from you guys?
don't play 260-hour plus games back to back. Take a breather.
Watch out for all the subscriptions you have. It's really easy for them to, charge you if because they all do. At least as far as I know, they still do this where you sign up, they're set to auto renew. Just like with your Netflix, they just keep on charging your credit card until you um, finally realize that you're not using it anymore.
They do default to auto renew. You can change it to not auto renew. And that's what I've done with
Yes.
mine.
Yeah.
So whenever you sign up for something, first thing you need to do, go in, turn off auto renew. Because you need to make sure it's a conscious decision that you want to still keep spending that money. Protect yourself. And with that, guys, game on.
Game on.